We had a fun game in Boulder on Saturday night. It was good to watch the guys play. Unlike last year with Kansas State, they were ready to play. They played hard. They played physical, and we got a quick start offensively and defensively to the game, and came back out the second half and did the same. So it was a lot of fun, and it was good to see Michael Huff there. I'm sure they've had a tough week out in Oakland with a coaching change and all that kind of stuff, but it was good to see him on the sidelines, and he's really so supportive of the kids, and especially the defensive backs. And Michael has always been a guy who calls them and texts them and stays in touch with them, so that's really, really good for him. Defensively, we were very good at sudden change. Sudden change to us means that the offense has a turnover, and the ball's inside, usually the red zone, and defense is sitting over there making their plans, and we have to scream to get them out on the field, and they came out and forced 3 field goals by Colorado, and they missed all 3, which was very, very good for us. We had 5 3-and-outs, 3 downs and outs by our defense, which kept them off the field, and those guys didn't have to play as much. We're really doing a good job getting after the quarterback. There were 3 sacks, 11 hits on the quarterback, so 14 times we made the quarterback uncomfortable in his passing setup and made him move his feet and makes it more difficult for him to throw. And we had 4 batted balls. We only had 3 missed tackles for the game that led to 43 yards after contact. They had 5 explosive plays, but 3 of them were on the last drive against our younger guys. We weren't as pleased with the way the young guys played when they went in there. So they really had 2 explosive plays for the first 3 quarters. Red zone, we stopped them 2 out of 3 times. The one time was disappointing because we had a 4th and 10 and did not make the stop. Third down, we weren't as good. They had 2 or 3 third down and 1 situations that they converted, which is tough, but we also let them have a couple of 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8. And then we forced 2 turnovers. Most productive players on defense, Roy Miller and Blake Gideon, played really, really well throughout the night. So we're pleased with both of those young guys. Ball hawks, which means they did something to knock a ball loose. Jared Norton, Aaron Williams continues to play well. Roy Miller and Rashad Bobineau. The Hard Hat Award went to Curtis Brown on the kickoff, where he really lit the young guy up over on the Colorado boundary. Offensively, we had 9 explosive plays. In fact, our top 3 receivers, Jordan Quan and Chris Obanaya, are averaging more than 14 or 15 yards per reception. So they're doing a good job with some explosives there. We were 4 of 4 in the red zone again. I think we've scored 24 out of 25 times. The 3rd and shorts were not good. We got stuffed a couple of times on 3rd and short in 2 tight situations, which was really, really disappointing for us. There were no offensive penalties the second time this year, and we had a great drive after Colorado scored their 7 points in the 3rd quarter. Offense came back out after turning the ball over and drove the length of the field in 4 plays and scored, and good teams need to answer. Our most productive player was Chris Obanaya. He played really well again. His total yards were impressive with the receptions and his running yards. And maybe the most impressive thing he did after the long interception that they run back down to about the 20-yard line, he chased the guy down, knocked him out of bounds. Our defense holds. They miss a field goal. So that really might have been a 14-point swing in the ball game, and at that time was very important. The best offensive lineman, the boss hog, was Cedric Dockery this week. First time for him, so we're pleased with him that he's coming along. Biggest contributor was Colt McCoy. I thought the first play was fabulous where he stepped up, got up near the line of scrimmage and threw the ball out to Chris for a 60-plus yard touchdown pass. And the great plays throughout the night came from Jordan Shipley. We're really pleased with Jordan. He's averaging over 15 yards per catch and made a couple of screen plays and turned them into first downs that were really critical for us. Special teams, we had 3 punts dead inside the 20-yard line, 5 out of 5 on extra points, had a 46-yard field goal, and really proud of Hunter Lawrence. He was the special teams player of the week because he continues to do really, really well. I do want to thank the Colorado medical staff and the Highway Patrol for taking such good care of Sally after she fell. They did a great job, and I know we don't release injury reports till Friday, but I'm going to say that it looks good for her to make the game on Saturday. Probable. I will break our rule. She is probable. Definitely Saturday afternoon she was doubtful. No question. I told her to get tougher. No, I didn't say that.
Coach,
off the record. No.
You've been on both sides of this rivalry as offensive coordinator for OU and early 80s and head coach here. Is this the greatest rivalry you've ever been a part of? And just talk about the differences of being on that side, being on the side you've been the last 10 years.
It is a great rivalry, and rivalries usually are determined by the section of the country people live in. If you go talk to the Georgia and Florida people, they're going to talk about that rivalry, and it's the only one. If you go talk to Southern Cal and UCLA, so my experience is I've moved a lot and I've been around in college football. Everybody thinks theirs is the only one. Army, Navy is pretty big to those folks. So this is really big to us. It's really big to Oklahoma. I have been fortunate to be on both sides of this, like Coach Royal, and see what it means to both teams. And it's even bigger when both teams are really, really good like they are this year. And it's good for college football, and it's good for the Big 12 and this part of the country that both teams are really good this year, and it should match up to be a great game.
Coach, obviously there's been a lot of great quarterbacks in this series over the years and in your time here, but since you got to Texas, is this the best quarterback matchup you've seen in this game?
Boy, I'd have to go back and look at it, but I don't see how it could be any better. And if you look at stats, and I know stats get skewed now because second-teamers are in there, and when did you pull them out, and all those, who do you play? But these two guys have just been on fire. They're unbelievable the way they're playing and leading their team. And I go back and look at this game over our 11 years here and my 1 year at Oklahoma, and it's really impressive when a young quarterback can come into this game and play well because of the pressure surrounding the game and the matchup. And Colt has done it for 2 years, and Sam did it last year. So for those two young guys to have that presence in this game for the first year says something about their toughness, their character, and their leadership.
Coach, is this a year where both teams are so good, the team that wins is going to be the one that doesn't make mistakes?
Yes. Last year was a really, really tight game. We had the 2 turnovers. They didn't have any. They forced the 2, and both of them were at times where we were going in to score. The year before, they had the turnovers, and we protected the ball well and didn't have any. So if you look at the last 2 years of this game, we've split, and it's been about turnovers and kicking game. It's going to be a tough game. Both teams are going to play hard. Both teams are going to play well. It'll be a real physical ball game, and it's usually, as I said, it comes down to turnovers.
This year, it almost seems like it's the same thing, but just in a different way.
This is a better motivation. Both teams slipped last year, and in fact, we really used the OU-CU game last year at halftime because the week before the Oklahoma game, Colorado came back and won last year, and we used that as motivation at halftime to say, look, now, this is where we were sitting there behind with Kansas State this time last year. Colorado was ahead, about like we were. It was 21-point lead and lost. So it's so good for this game and for everybody involved that both teams are coming in off of a high and a really good performance because they dominated Baylor as well rather than coming in last year like both teams did limping in.
Are you going to miss the tunnel?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to miss the tunnel?
Oh, I didn't even know it was gone. I figure they'll still have a place for us to run out. That's the tunnel to me. So we haven't seen the new stadium. That'll be interesting. Too, but it won't matter. I think we got a few more people, and there'll still be a lot of people screaming when you run on the field.
Coach, ESPN said they thought DeMarco Murray may have lost a step. Have you seen any indication of that, and how do they use him?
Well, they probably haven't watched him as much as I have. I think he looks really good to me, and the 70-yard run he had last year that changed the game, he's just a great football player. He can catch, he can run. There's a play where TCU blitzes everybody, and he comes scot-free down the middle of the field, and it's a hot situation. And Sam just takes the ball and dumps it to him, and he goes right down to the goal line. So I don't think he's dropped off at all.
Coach, how do you get to Bradford and hit him? He seems like he's such a rhythm guy.
They've got a bunch of seniors in their offensive line, and they're really, really good. I'd say 4 or 5 of those guys will be in the NFL next year starting. He is tall. He's athletic. He's a great golfer. He's a great basketball player. He can move. So he's a guy that is really smart. He's heady, and he gets the ball out of his hands fast. And all of their receivers are really good players as well. And the tight end, at some point in his career, will be in the NFL. So they're just talented, and he gets the ball to them. So they make it very, very difficult to get to him, and they make it difficult to because they're spread and they're no huddle. They make it difficult for you to disguise because they snap the ball so quickly. They're outscoring people 103-3 in the first quarter with their up-tempo offense. So we're just going to wait and start the second quarter.
Coach,
and I think we're, very honestly, I think we're 58 and 3, or 59-3 in the first quarter. But both teams have jumped out quickly. They've done it as well as anybody in the country.
Coach, how obviously there's been different results over the years, but how much do you feel like you understand Coach Stoops' tendencies and he yours with the amount of games you've played against one another, and how much do you harken back to previous years as opposed to just what you've seen on film this year?
You can usually look back a couple of years. The game changes so much. Like we've changed defensive coordinators hourly here the last 4 or 5 years, so it'd be hard for anybody to have tendencies on. They've got tendencies on Will from Auburn for 2 years, but they would look back at those film as much as anything else. Coach Stoops' staff has not changed very much the last couple of years from a coordinator standpoint, but I think just basically the demeanor of the game, the build-up of the game, the pregame, the halftime adjustments, what the game means to everybody, and it's just everything around the game is probably more important than the tendencies, because they'll change. And Bob's a great coach. They do a super job, and some of those things are going to change. So this is one of the times a year you try to break some of your tendencies.
Can you look back at years past and realize, or remember how you kind of felt about your team's chances in the weeks leading up, and how good has that been an indicator of how the game's actually gone? I mean, can you look back and say, I knew we were going to play well, I knew we weren't going to play well?
No, I really can't at all. We've been really good at times. When we were in the 2005 team, I thought would win all the games. Ohio State was really a difficult game, but if we could get by that one, I thought we had a chance to run the table. And then when we beat OU that year, I really felt like we had a chance if we stayed healthy and obviously got ready to play. You've got to do that. But I think it changes every year, and it's gotten more difficult now to determine how your team's going to play just by looking around the country, because there are more upsets than ever before for whatever reason. And what we've tried to do now, and this game will be no different, you try to take it as a one-game week. You prepare for it. You do the best job you can do with it. You try to win it. And then next week we got Missouri. It's number 2. The next week we got Oklahoma State, that to me is the most underrated team probably in our league at 17, because they've just run up and down the field on everybody. And then you've got Texas Tech and Lubbock. So I think what's happened in college football, and especially with our schedule this year, it's going to be every week. And if we win this weekend, that doesn't mean we're in great shape. That means we're going back to work, and we better go back fast, and because Missouri's playing so well.
Can you remember a 4-game stretch in your coaching career that's been this daunting?
No, asking Bill and John, I don't think Texas has ever had one like this, and we've never had one like this. And I told the guys it's a great opportunity for us. This is a fun team, and it's a special team, and they're working really hard, and nobody will question who we're playing. Nobody will question how good we are, and how much fun is that to go compete against the best in the country, and at a time where the Big 12 is the best they've ever been. So good for the Big 12.
Can you talk about Iglesias and their receivers, and how right when you think OU's graduated, maybe their top receiver, they just fill that spot?
Yeah, these guys have been around a long time. Malcolm Kelly left early, and he would be in this group, but we remember this group from playing in their freshman or redshirt freshman years, and I'm sure they think Quan and Jordan have been here forever too as we start looking at it. But Johnson, Iglesias, all those guys have played so much football against us, and I do think that the respect is back in the game from both teams, and both teams know both teams are really good right now, and they'll expect a real battle against each other. Somebody here, I'm sorry. Keith?
I was just going to say a follow-up that you've often called this game a bowl game in the middle of the season. How important is it emotionally to understand this is just 1 week of the season?
Yes, I probably made a mistake calling it a bowl game, and I meant the atmosphere. People get so excited in these two states. There's a pep rally. I mean, there's all this stuff that happens that doesn't normally happen. But now, like you said, it's for both teams. We won this game and lost the last 2 games when we were in great shape to win the conference championship 2 years ago, and just killed us. And if everybody said the season's over after Oklahoma, it's not. You got to go back to work, and I think Bob would say the same thing. So one of the difficult things for us is to play an important high-profile game like this at midseason and make sure that next Sunday you go to work and go back to work regardless, win or lose, because the season's not near over anymore in the Big 12 with a game this big at midseason. I'm sure Georgia and Florida say the same thing to them. It's just unusual to have something that's this important to so many people at midseason, and now it's a conference game where, unlike when you played, Keith, it was a national game but not a conference game. Now it's even more important.
Coach, what do you like about the atmosphere of this game and the Cotton Bowl?
You want what you do to be important. You want people to enjoy it. You want them to be excited about it, and you're proud of your team when they are deserving of national recognition. And for the first time now, I think after 5 games, this team's proven that we deserve to be somebody that somebody's at least acknowledging now as a team that's played well for 5 weeks. And when OU's doing the same thing, it just makes it special for all of us. More fun for you all to cover 2 good teams. And I remember when we got here, everybody said the luster was gone. This game wasn't important anymore, and nobody really cared about it. It wasn't even a national TV game, and it was so sad that the Texas OU game was unimportant. It was important to the players. It was important to the coaches, but it's back now to where it has national implications, and that's fun.
Do you think both teams are playing on the same level?
Well, just John, 1 second. I like her question better, and I didn't hear it.
But do you like that it's half and half, and you've got half the stadium hating you and half the stadium loving you, and that whole raucous?
None of that really matters to coaches. I mean, if you look at the big upsets 2 weeks ago, all of them were at home. I mean, we're seeing now home field advantage isn't even what it used to be, and I'm not sure why. But Bill Little told me when I first got here, momentum changes so much in this game because it's half and half. I found out the half that's playing good is a lot louder than the half that's playing bad. So I think it depends on how you play. But all the talk last week about the 70-3 game and none of those things matter. It's the team that plays the best when you get out there. You can throw out the stats, you can throw out who you played. The kids have to play good, and the coaches have to do a good job of coaching on Saturday. And other than that, all the talk, all the hoopla, I'll never forget Brian Bosworth when I was at Oklahoma making all the comments before we played Texas in '84. And I walked into Coach Switzer and said, "Coach, we need to back off here a little bit." And he said, "It will not make any difference in this game. I'm going to tell you, both teams will run into each other like 2 Mack trucks are going to hit each other right in the face." And he said, it never matters what they say before the game, so don't worry about it. And he did make 17 tackles and was the player of the game, I think. So, but I don't think any of that stuff really matters. It's fun. It's big. National TV, 11 o'clock, ABC. Everybody in the country will be talking about it. Game day there. All of those things are fun things. To the players and the coaches, what will matter only is who wins the ball game. John, you're a really good question. Ed, hey, it would be bad if I asked Ed for a question before you chime in. That would be bad. I would not put you in. All right, John.
I was just going to say, 5 games in, do you feel like both teams are playing at the same level?
I don't know. I mean, we've watched them for a day and a half, so it's unfair for me to say how they're playing. They're number 1 in the country, and they're playing great. They're a little ahead of us with turnover ratio. But if you go back and look, both teams have answered the bell and done what they should do to this point. Last year, neither one of us would have said that because we both had a loss going into this game. So I do think that both teams have done what they can do to put themselves in a position for this game. Ed.
I'll pass. That's okay.
Good. Oh, God. That's great.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Not anymore. You passed. Here.
Coach, you mentioned Chris Obanaya's performance. After 5 games, looking at your running back, if this is the kind of game where maybe Colt can't find as many yards rushing, talk about that group and what kind of who you can count on. Do you feel comfortable with that position right now?
Well, our question marks would be tight end still, to see where we are right now because of the loss of Blaine and making sure that the last half of the season, not just this weekend, where do we go? What do we do? And the second one would be now to get settled on the running backs. We won't know about the status of Fozzie until Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because every week we've thought, like you, that he would play, and he just hasn't. So is Fozzie going to play this week? We've been the same way. I mean, he just hasn't been able to get cleared yet to play. So what we've got to do is go back and now really review the first 5 games and try to figure out what situation is each guy best in. Chris was a high school receiver. He's averaging 14, 15 yards a catch. He's a mismatch on some linebackers and even safeties in some cases because he's like a receiver and he can run. So he's really good in all of those situations. He's 215 pounds. He broke a lot of tackles Saturday night on a couple of plays and made some long runs for us. All of those things are things that you need in this game, and he's got really good ball security. I think the other thing that's key in the stats is you look, OU has not lost a fumble this year. We've lost 2. And so that is key. So you got to have a guy that's going to protect the ball.
Mack, you mentioned the quarterbacks earlier. Can you compare the styles of the two?
Well, they're very similar. Sam doesn't run as much, but can, because you can see him scramble and make some plays with his feet. They really haven't run much option with him, but he can move, he can sprint. They move him around, and the best thing they've done is they've taken those great players, and with an up-tempo offense, they're really keeping pressure on the defense right now, and they're making it really hard to substitute. You see in games where they're catching people with 12 on the field because they're trying to get substitution groupings. So they've done a good job. We've done a good job with up-tempo. To me, they've done a better job with it because they're putting more pressure on, because they're just relentless with snapping the ball quickly.
Take one more and then we got to go.
Coach, you talked about how good the pass rush has been recently. Can you not count on getting as much pressure when you're going against, as you mentioned, a line that's going to have 3 NFL starters on it next year?
I think everything's relative. We've got really good players. They've got really good players. So you may not get as many as you did in the fourth quarter against Colorado, but pass rush is pass rush. And if you look at the way Roy Miller and Brian Arakpo and some of those guys, you start looking at Lamar Houston, Henry Melton, Sergio, those guys are getting pressure on the passer, and they're getting pressure on the passer early in the game. So I don't think there's any doubt that they can be a force each week, regardless of who we're playing.
Okay. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you all.
Good luck.